and welcome to the local pension board meeting. First of all, I'd like to just put on record a thank you to Dean Loader, who is now retired and chairing this meeting, and he has gracefully handed the meeting over to myself. And this is my first meeting. I would beg for your patience with me at this stage. I'll take us through then the agenda. So this, Mia, you've given us the apologies. Oh, hang on. Kim, can't you?
Yes, apologies from ACFO Martin Ward White, Paul Eden, Lee Buncombe and Kate Harvard from Audit Wales.
Kimberly, can you hear us yet or not?
It must be, I'm guessing, because I'm assuming
Send Kimberly a message, say does she want to leave and try rejoining before we carry on?
I'm assuming Dave can hear us and Mia, so
Dave, can you hear us? Can you put thumbs up if you can hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
yeah.
Okay, super.
Thank you.
Where's Kimberly from? Sorry.
It's Newport Way.
Yeah.
Or do you mean job?
Both.
Pensions lead shared North and South Wales.
Ah, okay. They're quite important then.
Very. Just got to keep this with you.
Okay. Okay, right. So she said, I think we ought to just do that rather than.
Just carry
Let's
on.
see if she can rejoin quickly and fix the sound.
So,
Feels like it's more her side than ours if the other
Yes.
can hear.
yes, yeah.
Dave's got an impressive workload, but Kimberly, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can't hear anything.
We can hear you, so
We can hear you, but you can't hear us. Oh, this isn't going to work very well, so.
Sorry, I can't hear anything.
Ah, okay.
I haven't changed any of my audio settings,
Okay.
but it must be me.
well,
If you want to start the meeting, and I'll try and fiddle in the background rather than me delay the meeting.
We're talking to you now. Can you hear us now? No? Can you hear us?
the mic is responding on the screen, so you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll carry on,
Okay.
and if obviously Kim can try and
Okay.
do her stuff.
Can you just Kim and say where can we go there and see if don't know what else we can do. There's no point calling up IT, I suppose.
Sat with Kim, isn't there? We could any option we got is for Kim to ring ICT. Kim, can you hear us now?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
fiddled with different speakers apparently.
Right.
Thank you, thank you.
Super. Okay.
Good stuff. Thank you, Kim. Cheers. Right, okay. So, another apologies, thank you, Mia. Declarations of interest. Is there any declarations of interest within the room or online? No, I'll take silence. No. So, chairperson's announcements. Obviously, from myself, there's nothing at this stage. Being my first meeting, I imagine I will have stuff going forward.
We could put in the minutes the fact that you thanked
It's as well.
thanked
yes,
Dean, but it was before the meeting started, so we could put
Right,
that in the
okay.
chairperson's announcements.
Thank you. Right, to receive the minutes, the local pension board committee held on the 21st of December. I'm assuming everyone's had the opportunity to read the meetings. October, sorry. Sorry, in front of me says October as well. So, there as part of it, is there any, yes, we will go through it now, so look at this. So the minute held there, so page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, 7. Is there anything anybody wishes to raise as part of that?
Yeah, it's not a correction or a query with the minutes. It's more of a matter arising, but I think I've committed, it's on page 4, to assist with communications around the, I believe, the pension dashboard. Page 4, communications. I've not had any contact about any of that, so I'm more than happy to assist with comms on our side, but just send it over to me, whatever you want to go out as such.
Action. Thank you, guys. Okay, so that leads us now on to the action agenda as well. So, okay, so point 1, which is the service level agreement. So,
Yeah, so Chair, we are meeting initially on the 26th of Feb as an internal pensions team to look at the SLA. Obviously, it's tabled for discussion today. And then we will pick up the conversation with RCT colleagues. We have a year, just under a year now to do this piece of work. So we're kind of on schedule, I would suggest.
we can expect an update, I think, obviously in the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, finished. So the next action, which was closed, the McLeod proposed date. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
Alice is with you again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so there is an update in the comments section. So we've been working closely with RCT, our pension administrator, on the delivery of McLeod and O'Brien. We had a cohort of people, and Kim will give a more detailed update on this in her report, that we are now looking to prioritise. But I think through our discussions, we have concluded that the most likely completion of McLeod is going to be the end of this year. But with all cases where there's detriment, prioritised.
Okay. And that seems to be a national issue
Yeah.
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Behind there. Okay. So the end of the year then.
Yeah.
That's great. So the next one is key performance indicators. Sat with you're down your Gareth as well. I mean, in trailers, it. API, like API head in within the on board, it would amend it to reflect commentary only relates.
I think Catherine's kindly offered to take you through the
Brilliant.
columns and what they stand for in
Yeah.
that appendix anyway,
That's great.
because as you're a new chair, it would help you
Yeah,
understand.
it's quite confusing when I started to. You with that, Gareth?
No, and I think that's the query I raised as
Yeah.
part of the minutes. So I think I committed to assist with sharing communications around the migration to the new platform, but I haven't received anything.
Yes, Gareth, thank you. Thank you both. So again, then the McLeod revenue exercise and pension dashboards project letter to the pensions regulator. So it says here, I'll currently exploring the approach taken to FRSs. Who wouldn't mind me sticking my nose in with this? Would it not be best practice if we were to write to the pensions regulator and say that we are going to miss this schedule? I'm just thinking of that upfront and honest approach, but I'll lean into your expertise in the room.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think at the last meeting we discussed, and you wouldn't have been in that conversation, the fact that we have self-declared to the pensions regulator that we have missed the original deadline, and that we anticipated that we would complete by the end of September. I think we used the words we were aiming to. I think we'd like to explore what other FRSs are doing on this in terms of, are they now writing back to the regulator to say, yes, we missed our aim for date, but we now have a new completion by date. But I think, Chair, I do agree with you. This is something that we should put back to the regulator as confirmation.
Yeah.
Because I'm conscious that in our risk register, there's reference to us upholding the regs and, you know, achieving
Yes.
deadlines and timelines. So I think this is something that we need to pick up
And in terms of advice, I would just say that I gave that advice at the last meeting,
Right.
which was actually, I'm not really that interested. And it sounds brutal, doesn't it? Not really interested in what other fire and rescue services are doing, because actually we've missed the deadline.
Yeah.
We've also missed our self-imposed new deadline. We're now looking at a deadline by the end of this year. I think to protect you, Chair, and to protect the scheme manager as well, it'd be really prudent to do a carefully written letter to the pension regulator to say, we're doing everything we possibly can, akin to the rest of the sector, but this is the new revised plan and this is the new deadline we're working towards. Because I think if you wait for them to ask you, you're always on the back foot. Far better, I think, to be upfront about these things. So my advice is for others to decide whether they want to do it. But yeah, that would be.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's just a question really, in two parts. Have we received any complaints about the missing of the statutory deadline? And then secondly, just some assurances around that we're communicating really well with scheme members about the fact that we've missed it and why we've missed it.
So, no to your first question. We do put regular comms out. But I guess it's probably timely to put some more comms out in parallel to writing to the regulator. So perhaps we could cover that off in our comms as well.
So are we happy with an action, Alison? Sorry to labour this with you now, but we do write that letter because I think that protects everyone as well as part of it, and we've been transparent as opposed to, I think it's very right, and we don't, it's easy to be on the front foot and the back foot with this matter as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think it will come as a surprise to them at all. I think they'd be expecting it, but I think at least we've said we're doing everything we can here.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing.
It's that transparency as well, isn't it? So thank you very much. Thank you. The next one, obviously, was Amanda, which has been addressed. The last action, which is the pension dashboard. So consult with Rhondda Cynnan Taff and our internal governance team to ensure data protection compliance. Sorry, I'll just sit with you again.
So really good place on this. I've had confirmation that we've onboarded now to the dashboard. So that's official. I think in my look at the onboarding process, one aspect that I think we probably just need to close the loop on from a service perspective is making sure that we've got any data protection impact assessments in place. So I've suggested that I pick this action up and work with the InfoGov team and complete the DPIA by the beginning of the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, that closes the actions down. No, that,
Can I just ask one thing? So the letter we're going to send to the pension regulator, Alison, do you want to work with RCT on that? Or is that something we do in our session? Because it's just who owns the action? Will it be a shared action between the two of you?
Happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah, super. Lovely. Thank you.
brilliant. Thank you very much. So that leads us on to our papers now. Okay, the first paper is the review of the key performance indicators.
Scroll down. Page 7, which is the first table of our key performance indicators. So as requested, so if I explain the format of this table. So our scheme year goes from April to March, and we map and check our performance against Agree's SLAs on a monthly basis. So the first column on the far left explains the measure. So for example, the first one, so we aim to do process refunds within 10 working days. So our target is always to hit 100% of cases within that agreed SLA. And the intervention column is the point at which we would really start looking at our internal processes to see why we weren't hitting at least 95% the majority of the time. Luckily, I can say that we haven't got anywhere near that. So what we do is, like I say, we monitor this on a monthly basis. So you've got the months along the top, so which is why we've got the 12 months in there, so you can see the picture as it builds up through the scheme year. So from a reporting point of view, because of the papers and the timeframes around pulling this data together, the last reporting periods for September, October, November, December since last meeting. So the comments in the end where it says, for example, the first line, no cases completed, that refers to December. Those comments will always refer to the last reporting month.
Okay.
Okay, so sometimes they can look a bit awry, the comments against the actual performance. So that's the table. So it explains in the table whether we've completed any cases. If we have completed cases, how many? If we've missed cases, it'll say in there as well. Okay, and then it gives us your ongoing tracking through the year in the final column. So for most of them, they are the 100%. So that's showing our year-to-date progress from April through to December.
I'll ask one follow-up question. So when, say, you know, you look at the second line down, it's got the 100 in April and 100 in August. That's not 100 cases there.
No, that's percentage.
So how do we know how many cases were processed?
That isn't recorded in here. You will
Okay.
only see the last month.
So, oh, I see. So this no cases completed would have a number
If there were any
was
cases
any
completed
done.
in December.
But what the figures in the month columns refer to is percentage, i.e.
Percentages.
100%
Yeah.
complete. So that could be for the month of August, there were 2 done within the time
Yes,
scale, i.e.
exactly
100,
that.
or it could mean 1 done or
Yeah,
5 done
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
yeah, to capture percentage performance against KPIs
Okay,
and volumes in this table.
yeah.
It could get relatively messy.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's just understanding what the
Yeah.
100 meant, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the outline of the report. I suppose just a broader question, one, to aid my understanding, and two, to just raise a point. I've had some feedback, and I'm aware of the fact that it's likely I only get the people feeding back who are maybe
Yeah.
a little bit frustrated, right? So
Yeah.
I'm aware of that, but some members have had a slight frustration about there being quite a delay from the date of their retirement until their pension gets put into payment. I suppose a point and a question, the point would be they express frustration around that, given that from their perspective, they've largely given 3 months notice of that date, and they've felt that it could be quite, quickly put into payment after the date they retire. But also, which row of this set of tables would reference that? I mean, I think I read it as the bottom row on the first page.
Yeah, so that's right. So firstly, I might take a step back, and so if I explain the process. So our process is, so a member retires, the first stage is through South Wales Fire and Rescue pensions payroll, who accumulate all the pensions data, pay data that we then need. That comes up to us. We produce a pack, we produce the figures, which comes back down to Fire, who then arrange to see the individual member.
Normally in person.
Yeah, and provide them with the relevant forms. Once we get the completed forms back, we then aim to pay benefits within 5 working days. So that's the process we go to. So there can be a few delays, like both ends, resources, data, queries, the pay figures, for example, can be quite complex in some instances. So that's our process. So if there are any specific cases, I'm sure me and Julia will be more than happy to look at the actual timescales.
Yeah, maybe it's worth me just having a chat with you outside of the meeting to check whether these are one-off complex cases or whether there is, something that we can identify and maybe improve on. Because I think it's a reasonable expectation with 3-month notice period that within 5 days of that date of retirement, for example, that would seem fair, that their pension's put into payment. The practical effect for the individual scheme user is that the 2 that I was in contact with over Christmas, they were concerned about paycheck between their last paycheck and their pension payment for quite a length of time, depending on where it falls in the month, right?
Julia and myself wouldn't
We
mind.
do explain to people the process before they put their notice in. So if somebody was to retire, for example, on the 5th of the month, we can't actually get any forms to RCT pensions until the pay's run, because they're going to get 5 days pay. So until the pay's actually run, we can't get that termination form over to RCT. So RCT can't even start looking at that. So the 3 months notice is the services requirement. It's not a pension requirement.
No.
So until that final form is submitted, RCT can't do anything. But if you've got specifics,
Well, let's have a chat outside the meeting, because I'd like to understand that reason why we can't put that over to RCT until the final pay run has been done as well.
Is like any changes or anything, it could be that.
Right, I see.
They have an estimated termination form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Like Julie says, until you run their final pay, you don't know what the final
Final pay
pay
is,
is.
that makes
So,
sense.
and especially in the days of today with McLeod, there's that added layer of complexity as well, making sure
Yeah.
that the data on every single member's record is correct. So, I would like to say that there aren't those delays. If there are, I would like to say that it's been because we are trying to make sure that those benefits are 100% spot on.
Thank you.
Just wondering as well. One of the big pushes we had within the service at the moment is that effective communication to staff. And I know Julia kind of touched on it there, but have we articulated how this process works in almost like a flow chart to all
Yes.
staff?
When you put your P53 in, you get 2 notifications from the pensions team. So first, this is what's going to happen straight away. And then they get a follow-up email then a couple of weeks later just to say, these are things you need to do, like don't forget to get your P60s off call, don't forget to do, and the way that the process works. So we say, you know, we'll do your final termination, you'll get your retirement pack roughly this time, then the final termination form, and so on. So they do get 2 follow-up emails to a P53.
So, but once they've submitted, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
front loading of that.
Yeah.
Do we do anything to communicate those staff? You know, I mean, say Gareth, I wanted to finish now next week.
Yeah.
Is considering those matters before
Yeah.
they arise.
So pre-retirement course, they're available to everybody.
So it picks it up on there as well.
It does
Right,
discuss
okay,
it
got
there.
you.
And obviously the team is available to anybody who wants to discuss their retirement date. And we do like those things like payday and stuff. We do try and encourage, if somebody puts in the 5th, for example, on a P53, we would contact
Right,
them,
okay,
just say, this is an unusual date. Can we just have a little chat just to make sure that you know what's going to happen on the back of this date?
That's kind of, yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? So it's
Yeah.
not there.
You know, if there's anything more that we could add for comms, I'm happy to
Yeah.
put stuff on our page and everything.
Well, cheers, Julia, thank you.
Conscious you haven't finished even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's on that, is that why these percentages are so low?
I was
You
just
were
gonna go
coming
on to that.
Yeah, okay.
So, in September and October, we didn't hit that 100% or the 95%. And we have put a footnote on to explain that in September, we processed 3 cases, 2 of which we didn't do within the 8 working days that we aim to process benefits within. 1 was within 8 days and 1 within 6 days. So even though we missed that 5 days, just to give board reassurance that there wasn't an extensive delay, it was a few days. And similarly in October, 3 cases, 2 were done in target and 1 was processed within 6 days. So yes, again, it did miss. So, but what I wanted to explain to board was this was a result of what we are aiming to do within the RCT pensions team is try and upskill some lower grade members at the moment. Fireworks sits with 2 of our most senior members of the team, and they are pretty much on it full time. So what we're trying to do is push this workload down to free up more of their time to deal with more complex cases. And during these months, that's what happened. So they were being worked on by people learning to do the process, and there was a bottleneck at checking probably a little bit to and fro just to make sure, like I said, those benefits were 100% right going out. But yeah, just to give board reassurance that since then November, December, we've gone back up to that 100% because we've identified that there was a little bit of an issue there. So just take reassurance that that shouldn't happen again. Okay. And all other processes across the 3 schemes, 92, 2006 and 15, were processed within the 100% KPIs. We monitor our workload on a daily basis coming into the section. So behind this, we're always rejigging people around, and if we're low in resource in one area, trying to find it and pinch it from somewhere else. So these aren't just looked at the end of every month. They're looked at on a daily basis, depending on the workload of the team. Moving on to member self-service. So My Pension Online, you might know it as so we've had the service in place for a number of years now. We find it a really beneficial tool to be able to communicate with our members. So at the end of January, our current software providers, Hayward, removed support for the existing member self-service, and we moved over to a new product, Engage. So that went live at the end of January. So and one of our team members worked very closely with Haywards on wording on the system, the look of it, the feel of it, the actual outcome of the calculations. So we're starting to see now the number of members. Part of the migration from one service to the other was an additional level of security being implemented, was multi-factor, I can never say it, multi-factor authentication. So that's been put in. So what people have to do is re-register for the service, which is why the numbers aren't apparent yet. But what we're hoping that everybody who was registered for the service will then re-register, and we will see those numbers coming back up again. One of the drivers for this should be the publication of our annual benefit statements. Right. So we always put our annual benefit statements up onto My Pension Online, and then work with the fire service team to promote that through your internal intranet sites. So hopefully come August, that will be the driver really for more people to go onto the service and re-register. But Julia, right, in our regular meetings, we're always looking at ways we can promote it. We've recently provided some comms that explain how you re-register. So yeah, we're working on that. We have regular monthly meetings, so we work on that as we go. But again, anything, whether union, anybody can do anything to promote that service for us. That's our preferred method of communication across fire officers and our local government pension schemes officers. Our annual pension savings statement. So every year by the 6th of October, we have to issue what we call pension savings statements to any members who have exceeded the annual allowance in the previous tax year. So we completed that exercise to time. So we issued 10 statements. So there were 10 fire officers who exceeded their annual allowance, and 4 of which actually incurred a tax charge, but we've been liaising with those 4 members, and yeah, the tax charges, they've done their self-assessments, and we've done the relevant updates to our pensions records. Each year we have to submit an annual return to the pensions regulator, and again, Julia and I work in conjunction to compile the data for submission. So each year we have to submit 2 data scores. So we have to submit a return per scheme, and there are the 2 data scores. You've got your common data score and your scheme specific data. So your common data is your name, your address, your NI number. So you would expect those numbers to be high, and they are. Your scheme specific data is more around pay, contributions, etc. What we need to be able to calculate member benefits. So these percentages have gone down on previous years, but the reason is the implementation of the McLeod remedy, where we're still, we've done an absolutely amazing amount of work, but there are records there that still do need updating. So that is why those figures are slightly lower than last year, but it's not something we're not continue to work on. And again, data is being updated all the time. Again, we have to submit a report to HMRC by the 31st of January every year, providing details of reportable events. So we've provided that data, and we've submitted that in conjunction with Julia to time. So on to McLeod. So we've still got some cohorts of members that remain unprocessed due to outstanding legislation. So we have now received divorce instructions from GAD, and the team are working through those, but they are technical. We're basically unpicking years worth of work and putting it all back in. So these are basically manual calcs. So we've got the team working on those. We are constantly reviewing our records because there's people move in and out of the scheme. So as members join and transfer in benefits, we might not have thought they were in scope, but now they are. So we're chasing that data to make sure the records are updated as well. And that applies for members who have come in from another fire authority, might have come in with details of other public service pensions. So to tick whether you're McLeod in scope, you've got to be in public service, not just fire. So it could be somebody coming in from the NHS, for example, but all of a sudden they're in scope, and we're keeping that data then. We're continuing to issue our immediate choice remedial service statements, and as Alison has said, and I think Kim will probably come on to later, so we're looking at the people who could be at detriment, so the firefighter 92 members who could have the 30 years service, and we're going to prioritise doing those because they are most likely to be at detriment out of the final cohorts to do. Matthews, so we've worked on the pensioner members, so all the information that we've had through from fire for the pensioner members, we've backdated and put those new payments into payment for those pensioners, so we're up to date with those. Current retirements continue to be paid on time, and just as an RCT team, just to keep our technical knowledge up to date because things are changing all the time. We regularly attend LGA briefings. We meet with Julia and her team regularly to make sure that we're all understanding the regulations and what we do next. So, yeah, just to reassure board that we are keeping up to date with these technical changes and aiming to implement them as quickly as possible as we go. Any questions? Or...
That's me. Is there anybody else? Anything online? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay, that moves on to our next paper now, which is the review of the SLA. Alison, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We've already mentioned that we are looking to review the SLA, and this report confirms that that's our intention. The SLA is at Appendix 1 to this report, and you will see it looks quite outdated. It was last signed, I think, in 2019, but we have undertaken periodic reviews of it over the last few years. It does expire in January 27, so the timing is right now to start looking at the SLA in detail. And I thought probably a first look would be to ask board members to perhaps focus on the KPIs in particular, because they are the things that we discuss every month. So do you have any observations on, are the KPIs fit for purpose? Do they need tightening, strengthening, loosening? So a general sort of set of comments on those would be helpful. But just to flag that the teams will now start in earnest to review the SLA with a view to coming back to board with an updated version, including some refreshed KPIs. So happy to take any comments.
Think from anyone?
I suppose just comment from me, but I think the KPI table could be clearer.
Okay.
That might just be a defect with me in my understanding with it, but I do find it quite hard to interpret sometimes. So it could be more specific and clearer.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion that if members haven't had a chance to go through, because there's quite a lot of pages here, aren't there, in the appendix, so it's quite a detailed document. Bearing in mind that you've got a meeting at the end of February,
Yes.
do you want to set a deadline by which you get comments from members from unions so that because what you want is as much detailed feedback as possible, don't you?
Yeah, so we're meeting on the 26th of Feb as a starter, so at the internal pensions team. I think probably if members could let us have something, if not before then, ideally, that would be great. But if I said by Friday the 13th of March, because we'll put a series of meetings in and we'll just keep checking in. So yeah, if comments could come by then.
Does that work for you?
Yes, that's fine for me. My feedback will be more broad on what scheme users want to see from the end product. And so we can aim the KPIs to account for that more so, rather than specific and detailed. I'll leave that up to the scheme manager.
Okay, is everybody else satisfied? Dave, obviously from your perspective, are you satisfied with any comments by March? Yeah. Thank you.
And that was, did you say 13?
13.
Thank you all. Thank you, Alison.
Thank
Okay, that leads us on to our next paper now, which is public sector pension scheme legislation. Kim, I believe this is over to you.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, everybody. So the paper that I'll talk you through is for information, really, and it's with regards to the 3 national projects that are still ongoing across the fire sector. So commonly known as MacLeod, Matthews Stewart O'Brien, and the pensions dashboard, which we have talked a little bit about. So I won't read through the entire paper, but I will summarise, if you like, the pertinent points for the latest update. It's going to probably mirror what some of Catherine has already shared with regards progress and things like that. But I've sort of broken it down with regards the groupings, if you like, that nationally we've categorised the affected members into. So the death in service, so those eligible for a death in service and beneficiaries, we had 7 in total at the start of the project. All remediable service statements have been provided, and I understand 4 elections have been made, so they are 4 completed. Ill health retirements, TAPER protected and unprotected retirees, there were 70 in total at the start of the project. From what I can determine, there's about 10 cases remain outstanding with RCT colleagues, and as Catherine alluded to, it's very likely that some of those will be those in the hard to do box, the transferees, the divorcees, and those sort of kinds of cases. 48 elections have been returns completed, so have completely been finalised for those members, and revised payments made, so they're now in receipt of their revised pension payments. Active members then, so those that are active members in the pension scheme have not retired and are employees of the service. So these employees would have received an annual benefit statement last August alongside their remediable service statement, so referred to as an ABS RSS, which from that point on going forward annually every year they will receive, that shows the 2 options that they would be entitled to upon retirement. This group of staff will either owe contributions to the service to access an option or be owed a refund. And the service has got processes in place now, a contributions adjustment process. So when individuals reach out and want to explore how much they owe or whether they're entitled to a refund, Julia's team then picks up that process, liaises with the individuals, and then those that do owe contributions can put a repayment plan in place through payroll. So all of that now is embedded into that side of this project. I'm led to believe there's maybe 20 cases still to be processed. Again, I can assume that they're in that very hard to do complex box. And RCT colleagues, and I know South Wales pensions team are working closely together to try and achieve those RSSs going out as quickly as they can once they've been completed. Deferred members, those that no longer work for the service but aren't able to draw a pension because they're not of pensionable age. Again, they are likely to owe or be owed contributions. The vast majority received an ABS RSS, the same as the active, by the 31st of March last year, which is the mandatory deadline. 30 cases roughly outstanding, I believe. And again, both organisations working together to get those over the line. It's worth reiterating, I think Catherine mentioned earlier, that those that are already have retired and have pensions in payment, systems cannot recalculate the option that they choose. All this is being done manually by RCT. Julia's team have had the manual exercise of compiling and recompiling the data, but it does remain a manual calculation for RCT as well. So that's where they become very lengthy, very complex, but they will still need an RSS. And then on to the final group, the fully protected pensioners, 272 at the start of the project. So the vast majority of these actually, even though they have to have an RSS showing options, they are the least likely to change their options because they retired based on the most beneficial option to them. They didn't transition into the new schemes. However, there are a collection, just a small number, maybe 10 plus, of individuals that will be at detriment because they've reached 30 years service prior to the 1st of April 15. And in essence, what that will mean to them is they're entitled to an extra pension out of the 2015 and quite possibly a refund of some contributions. So I know Julia's been working with RCT colleagues in identifying that group, and I think that information has gone up to RCT team to have a look at those, and as Catherine alluded to, they'll be pulled out and prioritised ahead of those that in essence won't be financially at detriment. And again, going back to what Catherine said, there are a number of divorce cases that are now being progressed. There was a delay in information coming through, legislative changes, and I'm not sure how many, but still transfers in and out of the service are still causing problems and delays. And I think from a McLeod point of view, that's the numbers. And other than to say a more recent update is that we are all aware that from a contingent decision point of view, so for those that opted out during the remediable period, so between April 2015 and March 22, they are now allowed to buy back that service. In Wales, slightly different to England, they don't have to prove why they opted out. It's not an application. They just need to fill in a form, and Wales will automatically opt them back into the missed service for those 7 years. Unfortunately, it became apparent at the start of last year that the legislation doesn't completely encompass all cases. So for some individuals, not all, they will fall into a group of individuals where the legislative changes for McLeod can't cater for them going back into what would have been the scheme they left, which is the 92. They currently would need to go back into the 2006, which we all agree doesn't put them back into the scheme that they left. But because of the way the primary legislation is written, that can't happen. So there was a national working group through the summer. I sat on it alongside Welsh Government colleagues and colleagues from England, MHCLG and the Treasury, to try and explore options, if you like, that would tick the boxes for those member expectations. There has not been a meeting, I think, since September, but I have been in dialogue with Steve Pomeroy from Welsh Government to find out if there's been any progress on these suggested solutions. So he's reaching back to his English counterparts. But just something of note is that in Wales, we will now be unable to make any changes until after the Senedd elections in May. So even if there are discussions going forward in England around, okay, so we've come up with some solutions that we think don't need a primary legislative change and will suit the cohort that we're looking at, in Wales, we can't actually make any changes until after May and the re-elections. So just to bear that in mind. So the services across Wales are reaching out to those individuals, if you like, and they are in small numbers, to contact them and say, look, you're in this group of individuals. We can't actually do anything at the moment. Please bear with us. And as soon as the new legislation comes into play, we can then process your opting back in situation, if you like, which fills the gap in their record. So that closes my recent update on McLeod. Anybody got any McLeod questions before I move on?
Thanks, Kim, for that comprehensive report on it. Yeah, two questions. One is on the with regards to the ill health cohort. You mentioned that 48 cases out of 70 had been processed. The remaining maths is dreadful, 22. Is that because the scheme user hasn't returned the information they need to, or is that with the service, or is that with our CT? And then just one last question. In regard to the delays around the RSSs, are people who have not yet had their RSS at any detriment or risk of detriment in so much as accruing more interest on the contributions they owe because of the delays that we've inadvertently caused? Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth, and they're really good questions. I'm going to push these to Julia and Catherine because they're closer to the detail than I am. But with regards to your first question around the taper and protected and ill health, 48 elections have been returned by the member and corrected and put into payment. So other than the 10 outstanding, if I'm not mistaken, the service and RCT can't do anything until a member sends in their election form. So the gap there, I can only assume, unless Julia or Catherine have got further information, they have not completed and returned their election forms. They have 6 months once they receive the figures from the service, if you like, to decide whether they want to elect to buy back, because of course they might not, that it's their decision. So we won't or can't take any action until they have returned those election forms. So that would not just be for that cohort, any cohort. They have 6 months from that being sent out to decide what they want to do. So that's the first question. And then the second question, I'm going to need to push back into the room, I'm afraid. Catherine, are you able to answer that? Delay in the RSS, any consequences to the member?
From a contributions point of view, sorry, I'm going to refer that.
So with that, the scheme manager, we did just decide that we wouldn't add on any interest for any of the members. So if it's circumstances out of the members' control, then when we do our recalculations, it's to the date they should have had their form. They should have had their pack. So the contributions are added or taken from that date. So the same as if you receive their RSS in August, we use whatever date we use for them, for these people. It's out there, especially the people who have transferred in from other services, we're still chasing those on a monthly basis. So it's out of their control. And with the ill health, some of those members haven't even returned the forms to allow us to send them to the IQMP for reassessment. So they even though they're in that number, they haven't been assessed. And then also, like Kim said, it is 6 months, so they might have only had them because the team are working through them as quickly as they can. And they are obviously more complex manual calculations. It could be they've had them, they just haven't returned a couple of forms.
And they didn't chase as well. So,
Well,
yes.
that's good to hear, because that was where I was trying to get to, is that I suppose we should make sure we're mitigating the risk that that's gone to the wrong address, right? Because what we don't want is someone in 2 years' time coming back and saying, hey, I never had that, and that's a difficult situation for us to manage. So, but as long as we're confident that they've received them,
These are pensioners, so they do have an obligation to update RCT with their address because they are actually ill health pensioners. Plus, do they go on my pension online as well?
Yeah.
So and I don't know how many chases you do, but I know you do. So
Yeah, proactive in chasing.
Amanda?
Just as observation, I thought the report was really good. Kimberly, the only question for me is when I read the report previously, I read a few statements, a large number of these did receive, a large number were provided. I think in future iterations, it would probably be quite useful for colleagues around the room to know, your total active members, say 461 total, you could have a percentage of which have been completed, or, to add that detail rather than say a large number.
It's a good point. I don't hold that information. So RSSs are produced and sent out by Catherine's team and RCT. So I don't hold that level of detail. It would need me to collaborate with RCT to find out what those exact numbers are. And that isn't information that I have access to easily. So
we don't get that information anywhere else in the papers, do we?
Right.
So I think, considering we're reporting to the pension regulator that we're a bit behind, it might be worth having the actual figures. So it might be, Kimberly, you need to request that for your report each time. I just think while we're monitoring compliance, it would be really useful to have those figures.
So we picked that up as an action, Amanda. So we had that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to be a pain.
Yeah.
rather than me including the numbers from Catherine in my report, Catherine or RCT does their own report. So can I just suggest that Catherine includes it rather than me?
could see that.
You can see it,
Yeah.
you can see it rolling your way, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Slowly.
Well done, Kim.
Anywhere else in the
Okay.
room or not?
That's Julia. Yeah.
Okay.
That's great, thanks.
Okay, are we happy to move on to O'Brien, Matthews 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just summarise what's in the report and very recent movements if there are any. So as the report illustrates, there were 478 eligible individuals service wrote to a couple of years ago now, and I think 250 or so responses or formal expressions of interest. So they expressed a formal interest in receiving further calculations, which is where then Julia's team are compiling those expressions of interest, making calculations based on individuals' pay history, service history, and for some members who joined the service way back, I think some of those calculations go back to the late 60s, early 70s even. So you can see the how extensive some of these calculations are. The service and across Wales, in fact, have prioritised, if you like, the production of those calculations based on those most at need stroke financial detriment. So those that would be entitled to a new pension and aren't currently in receipt of one at most financial detriment. So the older cohort who will now be entitled to a pension they haven't had before. We felt the next cohort were those that are pensioners but would get a revised pension calculation, so more money, and then falling to actives, so not currently in receipt of a pension, but obviously still going to be provided with the right to buy back calculations, and deferred the same. As far as I'm aware, round about the time I wrote the report, there's about 106 elections have been made, and Catherine's team have processed just shy of 100 recalced, processed, and new payments put through the system. I know Julia's team are still prioritising calculations out to active members, and I think deferred statements or calculations have gone out to those deferred members that don't fall into a cohort of deferred members that are likely to have changes implied. So currently in the legislation, it doesn't allow for certain categories, deferred and pensioners in payment due to voluntary retirement, if I'm not mistaken, to move their membership from standard to special. Other cohorts do, and other cohorts did in the first exercise in 2015. So England have already consulted and put into place a number of legislative changes that come in force, in fact, in April coming this year, 2026, that have a range of implications that Welsh Government have confirmed that they are likely just to mirror. So those are implications around certain categories, these deferred, being able to elect to transition membership from standard to special. Those that will now, once the legislation changes, be entitled to a death grant, but aren't currently, and it will bring an extension to the current deadline that's passed already. Unfortunately, in Wales, we can't do anything again. No consultation can now be put in play until after the Senedd elections in May. The Welsh Government again will consult, but based on the timings post-May of a consultation, public consultation, responses and new legislation, in reality, I don't feel there's an actual change in legislation probably coming to Wales until the end of this year at the earliest, although it will apply retrospectively. But across Wales, the teams are grouping those affected members, so those that will be entitled to a death grant, those that have a deferred membership, and the legislation will change in Wales. So that is impacting on teams' ability to progress through some of Matthews, just to put that out there. So I think work continues across both parties. So whilst Julia's team is sending the calculations and ploughing through that data, once those formal elections then are received, yes, we want to buy back, yes, we agree to pay the contributions, yes, this is how we'll pay the contributions. Catherine team then receive that paperwork and process those. I think from memory, Catherine, I've been out of the loop a little bit. I think there were some payments either just made or due to be made shortly. I think Jen was in comms with Julia around another batch that are going to go through the system. So that will bring the numbers up again, I think. So yeah, so that's pretty much where we are with Matthews to O'Brien. Again, still legislative changes. And the changes I talked about with the contingent decisions and these more recent changes in England to follow in Wales, they've just come about as a consequence, an unexpected consequence for a small group of members from the legislative changes that were made, you know, in order to correct the age discrimination. So they were unintended. Nationally, this didn't filter to the surface until it became apparent there were these certain cases that the legislation couldn't correct. So, you know, from a reality point of view, I think some cases for both projects will potentially remain unresolved for some time yet. And it is difficult to put an end date on when everything will be completed. But that's where we are with Matthews to and O'Brien, if there's any questions at that point.
Questions from anyone?
No? Good. And then I know it's not detailed in the report. I just wanted to do a verbal update on pensions dashboard. So everybody knows now, Catherine's mentioned it, Alison's mentioned it. We did connect as we were supposed to, we being RCT predominantly. So the first phase of the pensions dashboard project is completed. That's not to say the project is completed, because now, and the TPR has emailed out to the services to say, now is the time to phase 2, if you like, prior to the public launch, where we still need to be ensuring, or the scheme manager should be ensuring, they work alongside RCT colleagues to ensure that the data quality exists, that the connection is maintained, the infrastructure is fit for purpose. I can see Catherine nodding there. Yes, yes, yes. So whilst I think it'll go quiet for the time being, I think the project is not complete until it's launched into the public domain and there are no further issues. So there's been a soft launch, and it's an unpublicised launch through the Money Helper. That's right, isn't it, Catherine? Money Helper website, where people can go and search for their pensions. So that's in the test environment. I'm not sure how long that's going to go on for. I'm not part of those discussions. But once that then has been deemed as a successful test, feedback has been received from the funds on where users felt the service was good, where they had problems. There is still a need for the scheme manager, the service, and RCT to monitor and review this testing. You know, do RCT and the service get any data request? Is the matching criteria correct, and all of these things? So I just wanted to do a verbal on, yes, we've successfully achieved our connection date, but the project isn't technically not yet over. Hopefully it will be soon, but not quite yet.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Thanks for that update.
And that's me done, unless there's any PDP questions.
No, okay. No questions.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Kim.
Okay, thanks, all.
Update as well, as part of that. Right, moves us on to the next one now. Again, Alison, back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. So this is the review of the local pension board risk register. As the report outlines, the register is set out with 4 headings: 1, operational pensions; 2, financial risks; 3, funding governance; and 4, regulatory compliance. The pensions regulator states that schemes should have good internal controls. And our risk register follows the recommended format as suggested by the pensions regulator. There is a strategic risk register that the service has in place, and where we feel it appropriate, we would of course escalate any risks from this register into the service strategic risk register. I've done my own internal review of the register, but the report is asking members for comments on the register as it's currently drafted. I think my observation, particularly looking at the first area, which is the operation pensions area, and it links to the conversation we've had this afternoon. So the second risk in here is around loss of knowledge and experience. We have a very small pensions team, as does RCT, and we've shored up our pensions team with temporary resource. And one of the challenges that we're about to face is that because each of the projects have been going on for so long, we're going to be in a position of having to make a decision on our temporary resource that we've employed. So as you may be aware, where we've contracted resource in, and that comes up to a 2-year window, then we have to make a decision on whether we retain that resource at risk or not. This is just one of the consequences of the projects going on over a long period of time. And whilst it doesn't affect Kim or Julia or RCT directly, I think many fire and rescue services will have shored up temporary resource to get over this these projects. So just wanted to flag that. I don't think it changes the scores in any way, but it is an issue that most FRSs will be considering and responding to. So really, any questions or comments on the risk register as drafted?
First.
Okay.
Just only briefly on the issue that you flagged up, Al, around the temporary member of staff. I mean, I think that if I understood it correctly, I think the recommendation from this local pension board should be that we should ensure with such a complex landscape and a high workload that we've got the right resources there, because mistakes here cost far more than not having the right resources.
Yeah.
But that would be my recommendation. It's up to the pension board.
To take something like this. So it's two things I noted down. Page 75 is obviously where it says one of the risks failure to report breaches.
Yeah.
There's also, I think that's quite pertinent and strengthens that conversation to write in the regulator. And it's only because obviously you and I both sit on the workforce planning board.
Yes.
I think it would be pertinent for us to raise it there. That element, because I do think it's a fundamentally important role, and it's not going away. The firefighter's pension becomes more complex every day. I'm still trying to figure mine out. But and that's the element, and I agree with the comments from Gareth as well around that. I think that's something we could take to that border of conversation around what capacities in the organisation to bolster that position and get my full support on that as well. Like,
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
but we'll step away from that. There's no more questions, and we'll move back to Alison.
So next. Okay, so the next report is recent publications, newsletters and information. So as usual, I've tagged some of the fire pension scheme bulletins. Those of you that have had the opportunity to look, they generally focus on dashboard, McLeod and O'Brien, and those are the topics we discussed today. So nothing obvious to highlight, just there for you to read at your leisure.
The one query I've got, Alison, is around the training and development.
Yes.
Can I set an action for all members, really, is that we complete that training by the next meeting. Obviously, that's me as well, just I'm going to have to do that. At least then we can close that off and be confident everybody within the group has undertaken that training then.
I think that's the next paper, but I think there's two elements to it. I think there's the baseline, which is the pension regulator modules.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
From memory. So I think as a minimum, everybody should have done the 6 modules. I did it myself years ago. I probably need to commit to redo it, so it's fresh in my mind. But also, I think sometimes in your SLAs, I don't know what the arrangement is here, you have a top-up training day or something. Is that something that's scheduled in anytime soon? Or
so we have previously, RCT have done some really good awareness sessions on each of the schemes. So we've done that sort of thing. We've also brought the LGA in to deliver awareness on hot topics. But there's also, I was going to mention the firefighters' annual pension scheme conference, which comes up in September. So we'll have notification of that in due course. So yeah, I was going to say what Chair said. So we'll send a link round to the pension regulator training area. So if you could undertake the trustee toolkit, whether you've done it before or not, it's good practice to refresh your knowledge in that area. So we'll send that around. We'll have a look at when the conference is this year, and we'll talk to LGA.
September, normally the end of September, and the FPS also do online training, because I know you've done the IFP training.
Yes.
And in the Nil Health one as well, so they do offer training just online.
Right.
I was particularly thinking for your new chair, because
Yeah.
obviously if you're interviewed by the pension regulator, they will want to know what training you've done to fulfill your
So
role.
much time.
And the other thing, I have had a meeting with the other monitoring officers from Wales, and I have an independent chair at Midland West. And I should reach out to them, because I think from an oversight perspective, having an independent chair who's a pensions expert
Yes.
would, you know, probably make everybody feel better that you've got that external scrutiny, because it's quite something for an ACFO to carry, I think, the chair of this. So I'll take that as a way as an action to look into that. But I think if you can get, you know, the training dates in the diary under the SLA and LGA training as a top up, that would be brilliant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you.
Have a done, Amanda, you happy with that?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Any item for business for myself, deems urgent, so there's nothing as part of that. Items to report back to the Board of Commissioners.
You've skipped over the forward work programme.
I skipped the Board work programme.
Just to let you know, we're working on the new municipal year meeting dates at the moment. So Scott and my team are doing that. So we have identified a provisional date for July. If you pop that in your diary now, and hopefully that will be confirmed. I've got a paper going to Board of Commissioners with all the projected meeting dates in it for their approval. That might have already been in the diary already, that one, I'm not sure. But anyway, so it's the 14th of July. And we've identified the reports that we think are going again next time. But if you have any other views about other papers that should be going, please let us know, and we can add that to the next agenda. Is there anything obvious missing? APIs, illustrations. I don't think the rest register goes again, does it?
No, 6 months. Yeah.
So there's a break for that one. And I think we put in new local pension board terms of reference and members' handbook, just because we're going through a governance review at the moment, and it might be that's a good time to refresh the terms of reference for this board. Yeah. So I've left it as an option. We can take it back off if we're not ready, but I'll put that in at the moment.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. It's nothing else, no? I'll just do a quick run the table A or B. I'll go to the screen first. Mia, anything with yourself? Dave, anything from you?
No, everything's fine, thank you.
Great, thank you. Kim?
No, everything's fine, thanks.
Scott, anything from yourself? You're right? Yeah. Julia?
No, thanks.
Gareth?
Only just to say thank you to all involved working on it. It's a complex area, and I know scheme users can be frustrated at getting things done, and I can be critical in scrutiny, but thank you for the work you're doing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Amanda?
That's it.
Catherine?
No.
Okay, so that allows me just to formally close the meeting and thank everybody for your time. Yeah, and you can stop recording. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
First meeting, Chair.